Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey at the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China. We're going to narrate some sparring today. Today it's kickboxing. We've got Kevin on the left and Hao on the right. Hao with some spinning hook kicks right there. We're doing a round robin right here. Basically every minute we're going to rotate. One guy stays in the middle for 2 rounds. Hao catching the kick. It's a sweep right there. And just giving them a reminder that if there is a throw or a takedown, stand back up, since we are working the stand-up game today. Hence the big gloves. With a touch of the gloves, they continue, feeling each other out here. Hao pawing with the jab, Kevin with the counter jab. A lot of jabbing going on. Kevin trying to work his way to the inside. Kevin is at quite a size disadvantage here. Kevin's about 70 kilos, Hao is about 100. And we rotate. I jump in here, spar a minute with Kevin. And Kevin likes that low lead body jab, which is a great move if you can follow it up. Working some counter striking here. Taking it very easy with this opening round. We're going to spar for 30 minutes here, so the intensity will gradually build here. And catching a kick, and a counter, and a teep. And another catch. Now, I haven't sparred with Kevin very much. In fact, after the session, he informed me he'd only actually sparred a couple of times in the stand-up game. Now, he has a karate background, but considering how little sparring he's actually done, I thought he did a fantastic job here. Resetting the timer, and now me and Hao going at it, catching the kick, countering with my own kick. Now, in the context of mixed martial arts, once I catch a kick, my primary goal is get the takedown. But as far as kickboxing goes, returning fire with another strike is as good of an option as any. Hao is an excellent kicker. Almost got one of my kicks. And again, we're throwing them low speed, so they are a little easier to catch. But we will go a little faster as the round continues. We are using knees, but no elbows. Hao has excellent control on his kicks, but also the capacity to put an enormous amount of power in there. Again, he's over 100 kilos. Sneaky head kick up there, and the jumping knee inside the clinch. I prefer to throw knees like that to make it harder for my opponent to catch and counter with a throw. Kevin with a nice combination, jab, jab, while working to the outside, throwing a body hook. Kevin likes that spinning back fist a lot, but I would like to see him set it up, make an angle, and follow it up. That's absolutely crucial for a spinning back fist to work. The setup, the 45-degree angle, and the follow-up. We'll see him throw a lot of spinning back fists in these 30 minutes. Nice little overhand there, but countered with the push kick. Timing a push kick is super useful. And we switch again. Hao and Kevin are going to go at it for a minute. Here we go. Kevin leading with the right hand. Hao countering with a push kick. An outside kick. Faking the axe kick, following with a lead push kick. Kevin going low with the overhand, the tie up, How attempts to throw. Kevin has pretty good balance there. Exchange of body kicks. Again, Kevin really liking that low body jab. And How unbalancing him with a push kick. Another attempt at a spinning back fist. And again, How's spinning kicks are fantastic. And again, How very concerned about the safety of his sparring partner. And I jump back in the ring again, circling to the outside with a check hook there. Tying up. The jumping knee following with a right hand. Catching the kick, right hand, follow with a kick, and a clinch and a jumping knee again. Right here I'm attempting a golf swing takedown right there. It's a technique you'll see in Tai Chi Chuan, Muay Thai, freestyle wrestling, a lot of different martial arts. I'm going to pull that off later in this round. I love high kicks, especially from short range. A lot of people don't know you can throw them from there, but you absolutely can, depending on the position of your lead foot. How catching the kick, I work into a clinch to avoid it, follow with the jumping knee again. I think I'm going to try that Tai Chi throw again. If Kevin throws one of those push kicks, pairing with the elbow. Kevin doing a good job of being aggressive, especially if you're at a size disadvantage. And I've got about 10 kilos on Kevin here, about 80. Oh, there's that Tai Chi throw. Does Tai Chi work in a fight? It works when it works. But yeah, when you're at a size disadvantage, you've got to up the aggressiveness. So yeah, Kevin's distance management it's pretty good. It's really good, especially for, again, the amount of time he's put into sparring. So I love the way he's able to translate his karate training into kickboxing here, especially against bigger guys. Again, How countering with his jab there when Kevin comes in with the body jab. He's tried that quite a bit, so How is adapting. How was worried about the low blow. Kevin says he's okay, so they continue. And again, another accidental low blow, so Kevin's going to sit the rest of this one out. Fortunately, he was wearing a cup. Strongly recommend get a Thai steel or aluminum cup, or aluminium for my British friends. It's the one I always wear, because when you spar, especially if you spar a lot, it will happen. You will get clipped there. Another check hook right there. If you're not familiar with the check hook, learn that technique. Invest the time into learning that technique. When your opponent presses forward, because they will step forward eventually. Attempted an axe kick right there. How throws one right back at me. Meilua follow with a leg kick right there. Up kick from the floor. Going a little bit crazy in this round with these capoeira kicks. Little cartwheel right there, trying to catch him on the way in. You can throw a cartwheel as an offensive technique in a number of different ways, going backward, going forward. your opponent is charging at you and you cartwheel away from them, you can catch them with the heel coming in. But Hal moved away, so... Anyway, that was a fun round. One of the reasons we spar is to try out different things, different strategies. Nice push kick from Kevin right there. Kevin trying a spinning hook kick right there. Counter with a side kick. Right here I'm doing a lot of feinting and drawing. Notice my hands are down. Why am I doing that? Look at the range we're fighting in. So notice the contrast between when my hands are up and when my hands are down compared to how far away we are to each other. When my hands are down, I'm trying to draw him in to striking range, meaning he's just outside of my kicking range. Or, hold on, I'm going to switch right there. Yeah, that's such an important thing to understand, is your lead foot relative to the position of your opponent's lead foot. Because that's going to determine if and when you can get hit, or if and when you can strike your opponent. With some nice parrying and oblique kick right there. And he's going to adjust the shin guard. And they're back. Some very nice parrying, hand fighting right there. And a throw. And if you fight in China, you have to understand catching kicks and throws off catching kicks. It's just part of the fighting culture here. And Kevin attempting a couple spinning back fists. Again, set those up, make the angle, and follow up. That is crucial. I like to double or triple up on those jabs, changing the level with them. If you only throw one, especially if you set in a very specific rhythm, it becomes much easier for your opponent to time them and counter them with a cross, which is one of the most misunderstood terms in combat sports. A lot of people think a cross is just a right straight punch. It's not. A cross is a counter strike. When the arms cross specifically, your arm is crossing with your opponent's arm. A lot of kicking right there. Well, I'm talking about crosses. How very worried about my safety right there. I tell him, it's okay, I'm alright. It's okay to hit me. That's what we're doing. And Kevin steps back in. Inside leg kick. Another thing that's very important to remember about the stand-up game, instead of trying to memorize a bunch of combinations, remember one very simple principle. If you are close enough to touch your opponent once, you are close enough to touch them again, and then again, and then again. So instead of memorizing fancy combinations or even simple combinations, just remember, when you are close enough to hit them again. Principles of 2s and 3s. What that means, when you're close enough to hit them once, you're close enough to hit them twice, or 3 times. So throw your strikes in groups of 2s and 3s, once you connect. And Kevin and Hal back in the ring again. Nice combination there, high-low from Kevin. That high-low principle is also way more valuable than memorizing specific combinations. Oh, Kevin just took a toe right in the eye, unfortunately. And he's not having a good day with these accidental fouls right there. So, don't worry folks, he recovers from this pretty quick, but he's going to sit out the rest of this round. But yeah, as I was saying, the high-low principle is way more important than dialed-in combinations. Basically means hit them high so you can hit them low so you can hit them high. Because when we attack high, that's where our focus is. If you get punched in the face, it's much more difficult to focus on your leg. If you get kicked in the leg, transversely, it's much more difficult to focus on your head. I like to parry with my lead elbow. Doubling up on the jab, torque to the inside, following up with the low kick. And trying to set up my right hand here. There are 3 levels of defense for a round kick, specifically a leg kick. The first one, and the least valuable, is checking the kick, unless you're able to do damage with that check. The second one, catching the kick, which is valuable because you can counter, strike, or throw your opponent, which is super useful. And the third is just avoid it altogether, which is generally what I try to do. That or catch. Kevin's back in, his eye's okay. And I like his level changes here. And Kevin's really good at internalizing the principle of the high-low principle. And I'm excited to see how he does with more hours of sparring under his belt. Again, a check hook right there. It's also very important to set up your kicks. If you're throwing kicks, set them up. Meaning if you're leading with a kick, especially without achieving an angle on your opponent, it's going to get checked, it's going to get caught, it's going to be countered. And remember, it is not a setup unless it unbalances your opponent. Like the late great Jack Dempsey said. It's not a setup unless it unbalances your opponent. A lot of people think a setup is a mere distraction, or flicking your hand out, tickling your opponent. Nope. A setup is an unbalance. That's true in the stand-up game. It is true in grappling as well. If you have not unbalanced your opponent, if you haven't changed their position, knocked them back on their heels, unbalanced them in some way, it is not a setup. Can't stress that enough. Yeah, leading with that long uppercut with the range of a jab is something I like to do from time to time, especially with a shorter opponent. There's so many videos out there about how to fight a taller opponent, not so much about how to fight a shorter opponent. Now you notice from time to time here I'll raise a hand before throwing a strike. What that is a visual distraction. Sometimes it's the right, sometimes it's the left. It's a fake, is what it is. Just ever so quickly, ever so subtly raising one hand before throwing a straight punch at a different level. I want you to watch for that. This next round, I'll do it a few times with how as well. Again, this is a fake, not a setup. A setup is an unbalance. A fake is psychological warfare. Not to be confused with a feint. A feint is when you put yourself in what seems like a vulnerable position to get your opponent to react a very specific way, so you know how and when they are going to attack, so you know exactly how to counter. Pairing with the lead elbow and the lead shoulder. Right there, a lot of people say the Philly shell. Oh, that was a nice head kick right there. Appreciate how pulling that one. But yeah, the Philly shell stance, in kickboxing and mixed martial arts, when you move on the inside, as opposed to using that from the outside like most boxers do, is a fantastic way to set up, and by that I mean unbalance, your opponent with a shoulder check, to set up takedowns, to set up head kicks from the inside. I'd like to do a video on hands down fighting, and specifically when and where and why that comes into play. I would like to see Kevin set up those kicks a little better. And a back kick. One of the big misnomers in stand-up fighting is the term spinning back kick, because it's not actually a spinning back kick. It's not a spin, it's a turn. We really should call it a turning back kick. Unlike a spinning hook kick, which is a spin. Little accidental foul, but no harm. That's very important when you try to catch a kick. Don't reach for it. The kick comes to you. If you reach for it, it's going to hit you, and you're going to open yourself up, and it might end up being a high kick when you thought it was a low kick, because they look exactly the same coming out of the gate. One thing about the boxing ring is you can use the ropes to your advantage, leaning off them, bouncing off of them in ways that a cage just simply doesn't work. So when I fight in a boxing ring as opposed to a cage, I tend to get really loose and really floppy, and just really roll with my opponent's strikes and bounce off those ropes sometimes. Exchange of kicks right there. Tie up a little bit. How doing a great job on his defense there. And we tie up, throw some knees on the inside. Break the clinch, get in one of those sneaker punches. If you don't know what that is, read Jack Dempsey's book. When you break the clinch under your own accord, not waiting for a referee to do it for you, you can throw a punch as your opponent is breaking up as their hands are down and still vulnerable on that inside position. And Kevin has a great execution of that spinning back fist, but the angle, the setup, and the follow-through. Tried to throw one of my own right there. It's the thing, when somebody throws a technique repeatedly, it becomes almost subconsciously ingrained in your mind to do it yourself. So you can program people. You can absolutely program your opponent to react a very specific way by following the simple principle of I hit you, you hit me in the same way. I push you, you push me back. I pull you, you pull me back. I punch you in the face, you punch me back in the face. I kick you in the leg, you kick me back in the leg. So if you do that right, you can absolutely program your opponent to respond the way you want. Alright, Kevin and Hal back at it. Almost. Putting the glove back on, here we go. Hal leading with a beautiful triple spinning kick combination, but Kevin wisely avoiding it. Oh, got clipped with the elbow. Again, we're not using elbows this round, that was incidental. As Hal was trying to spin out of the position. Even so, even if you're doing light contact sparring, protect yourself at all times. That is the number one rule of fighting. Protect yourself at all times. I really would like to see Kevin follow up, at least follow up on that spinning back fist. It's a fantastic move, but you gotta follow it up. Because it does not always connect flush, it does not always knock your opponent out. Okay, watch my hands as I raise them up here for that fake. So I do that a lot this round. Excellent job pairing the high kick from Hal. Overall, Hal just has excellent defense. Fantastic sparring partner, this guy. And we're going to rotate again. Back in the middle. My leg got caught in the ropes for a bit there. There was a Japanese boxer, Ryoto Murata, who really inspired me with the way he was able to cover up and counter. He had a fight here in Shanghai against an Argentinian boxer, and Ryoto Murata, he was an Olympic gold medalist before he turned professional, and he's done this in a bunch of his fights. The way he covers up is not simply defensive, he uses it offensively to follow his opponent in. So he feels as they make contact with his guard, and as they're retracting the arm, he extends his own punch. So that's something I try to emulate anytime I have to cover up and block. Anyway, that's the end of the sparring session. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.